If they didn't look good against the 2s and 3s and guys who may not even make an NFL roster, how are they going to look against the best in the world? And turns out the answer to that question is absolutely awful. The offensive line played hard, and look, that's great, but this is not a participation trophy. That was an abysmal performance through almost 3/4 of that game. The Ravens open up the season with another heartbreaking loss to the Fighting Swifties. But before we get into that breakdown, welcome to Flog Talk, your home for all things Baltimore Ravens football. If you are a Ravens fan and you're new to this channel, hit subscribe. It's free, it's easy, it takes 2 seconds. We're trying to hit 2,000 subscribers by the end of the season, so if you could help us on our way to do that, I would genuinely appreciate it. But enough of that. Let's get into the recap of what was an absolute heartbreaker at the end. So there was a lot to take away. There is a lot to talk about in this game. First things first, let's talk about some good things here. Number one, this goes without saying, and that is Lamar Jackson is one of the best in the world. Not a question before, but he just continues to prove that time and time and time again. There looks like a fire in his eyes that I don't know that we've seen before. Just seeing him on the sidelines, seeing him even in the post game, there's something going on. You just look at his eyes. There's something there that I don't think we've seen. He's always been a fiery competitor, but there's another dog in him this year, and I think it's going to make this whole team better. He's going to push this team as far as he possibly can, and I'm excited to see it. Isaiah Likely is an absolute superstar being born right in front of our eyes. An absolute late-round gem that the Ravens got. Another one. The dude is an absolute stud. I think he could be the Ravens' top target this season. I think he's that good. He presents so much of a problem and stress on defenses. I don't know how you ever take the guy off the field. Absolute tremendous, and almost pulled in what would have been a touchdown that could have led to a game-winning score if they would have got the 2-point, but that's neither here nor there. Absolute otherworldly effort by Isaiah Likely. I'm excited to see him this season. I did have to hold my breath there when he went down the second or third to last play. That would have been devastating if he would have gotten hurt. Thankfully, he went back out and almost made that tremendous touchdown catch. So, loved what I saw from Isaiah Likely in this game. Defensively, I was concerned, going into this game. Zach Orr, the new defensive coordinator, his first time calling plays against an elite offense. Patrick Mahomes, the best in the world. Andy Reid, one of the best offensive coaches in the world. Travis Kelce presents a plethora of problems on defense. Just so many weapons. And, of course, Xavier Johnson, their rookie out of Texas, who absolutely showed flashes of brilliance just with his overall speed. And they were still missing Hollywood Brown. This offense is going to be a problem through the whole season, as they are almost every year Patrick Mahomes is under center. And even though they gave up 27 points, I was really encouraged with how they performed. Their rushing defense was really well. They held Isaiah Pacheco, their leading rusher, to 45 yards on 15 carries. Xavier Worthy, 1 attempt, 21 yards. So under 100 yards rushing on the game. Their defensive line, the Ravens' defensive line, is still very, very stout. Even though you had a little bit of turnover from last year, they kept the anchor, Pierce and Justin Madubuike. So that was very encouraging to me that the run defense looked very stout. There was definitely some communication issues we saw on the blown coverage that led to an easy touchdown for Xavier Johnson. I think it's just week 1 stuff that they're going to get fixed as the season goes on. By the time you get to game 4 or 5, this defense is going to once again return to an elite level. I firmly believe that. They have all the pieces there, and they showed flashes of it. Now, don't get me wrong, the Chiefs definitely left some points off the board. They certainly hurt themselves, dropped passes, stuff like that would have led to more scores, but the Ravens did a good job given the circumstance. Let's get to the bad, and there was a lot of bad in this game. And the main part that I'm going to harp on, and is what most people are going to talk about, and that is the offensive line play. I was very adamant on this channel, that the offensive line could present problems for this team, especially early on in the season. You're replacing 3 starters from last year's team, and in the preseason, they did not look impressive whatsoever, in my opinion. And it was a big question mark for me, and I saw a lot of other Ravens fans that felt the same way. This was a big concern for a lot of us, for good reason. They didn't look good during the preseason. And I said, just wait till they play guys like Chris Jones, or Micah Parsons, or Max Crosby, or the Myles Garrett. If they didn't look good against the 2s and 3s and guys who may not even make an NFL roster, how are they going to look against the best in the world? And turns out the answer to that question is absolutely awful. Absolutely awful. And I know some people could argue that. I know John Harbaugh went in the postgame and said, the offensive line played hard. And look, that's great, but this is not a participation trophy league. That was an abysmal performance through almost 3/4 of that game. I will give them the fourth quarter. The last drive in the third quarter that bled into the fourth quarter was when they finally started getting a little bit of consistency. They still weren't great. Don't get me wrong. It was not up to par even then. But it was better because the first 2.5 quarters was absolutely atrocious. My goodness, Lamar Jackson had 2 seconds before he had to run for his life? Truth be told, if Lamar Jackson was not as mobile and elusive as he is, this game would not have been a game in the fourth quarter. Lamar Jackson, once again, single-handedly kept this team in. And I don't think I'm over-exaggerating when I say that. That's just how good he had to be last night to keep them in this game. There might be a handful of quarterbacks in the National Football League that could have kept the Ravens in this game because of how bad that offensive line was. Absolutely unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Even running blocking. Derrick Henry, 13 carries, 46 yards. Now, look, I'm once again questioning some of the play calling. I thought Derrick Henry should have touched the ball at least 20 times. At least 20 times. Derrick Henry has always been a high-volume runner, and you can appreciate that maybe he could have a lighter year and stay fresh. I'm all for that. But what makes Derrick Henry so dangerous is the sheer volume that he can carry and just wear on a defense. And eventually, he just pops a huge run. That's what Derrick Henry does. He just pounds and pounds and pounds and pounds. And eventually, he just breaks free. But 13 carries, 46 yards, not going to get it done. It was almost like the ghost of the AFC Championship game came back to Todd Monken. They could do nothing. They couldn't run the ball. Every time they tried to play action, Chris Jones was in. It felt like it was in Lamar Jackson's face. Just absolutely unacceptable offensive line play. Period. End of story. And if the Ravens want to even get close to their end goal of a championship, that has to get better and fast. Absolutely, positively, no doubt. I don't want to over-exaggerate this, but they were absolutely horrendous through most of the game. Fact of the matter is the Chiefs absolutely played a better football game than the Ravens. For some reason, when the Ravens play the Chiefs, they cannot get out of their own way. They just... I don't know what it is, but a lot of that's a credit to the Chiefs. I'm not going to totally discredit them. But anyways, so the offensive line has to get tremendously better and very quickly. But this is nothing, like I referenced earlier, this is nothing that we didn't expect. There was many Ravens fans, including myself, that said this offensive line is going to take time. It's a long season, and you have a little bit of time to develop and gel, but you don't have a ton of time at this point. It's game time. It's time to get it fixed ASAP stat. So, I'm not going to say I'm surprised. I'm not surprised they struggled. I'm surprised at how bad they looked because it was terrible. I'm going to try to lay off of them a little bit, but it was terrible. It was bad. That's the best I can come up with. Absolutely unacceptable. The right side of that line was an absolute liability in this game. So we'll see what happens going forward. They don't really have much of a choice at this point. They have to get it fixed. Now, the good news is you're not going to play Chris Jones every week. That's the good news. And I guess the overall takeaway of this game, if there's one thing positive that we can take away, and I think we should take away, and it's a really good thing, and that's that the Ravens did not play anywhere close to their best game. Offense, defense, not even remotely close. And they still had a chance to win at the end of the game. And I know what you're going to say, well, the Chiefs didn't play their best. I understand Chiefs didn't play their best game, but the Chiefs played a hell of a lot better than the Baltimore Ravens did. The Ravens played absolutely undisciplined, sloppy football through parts of this game, particularly on offense, and the offensive line mainly, and they still had a chance to win. Going forward, they absolutely cannot have Lamar Jackson running the ball almost 20 times. If they replicate this performance time and time and time again, this is a recipe for Lamar Jackson to get hurt. You do not want Lamar Jackson to run the ball almost 20 times a game. You don't want him being under siege every time he gets the ball in the pocket. Derrick Henry needs to be a factor in this offense. You went out, got one of the big fish in the pond, big signing, one of the biggest in free agency. Give him the football. The offensive line, get it together. Give Derrick Henry the ball at least 20 times a game. That's what he does. That's what he's used to. He can handle it. He's a tremendous talent. He's durable. He needs to do that to wear on a defense. The fact of the matter is, the Ravens' offense last night was limited, basically, through most of the game, to screen passes to Zay Flowers, Justice Hill sneaking out of the backfield a couple times, and Lamar Jackson running for his life. That was the offense in a nutshell. What do they say in the third quarter? The commentators that Lamar Jackson's average depth of a pass was 1 yard, absolutely telling to how much time he had, and he could not even wait for his receivers to get down the field. So again, I repeat myself, the fact that they had a chance to win the game at the end is amazing. And it's very encouraging. Like, it was frustrating at the time. I was very frustrated watching this game, but the more the more time I've thought about it, the more encouraged I've walked away from it. Because I'm like, hold on a second. This team played that bad in the trenches and still almost won the game. I don't know. I think we have a lot to be enthusiastic about. The defense is going to be elite yet again, I firmly believe. And like I said, if the offensive line can they don't have to be the best in the league. They just got to be good. You just got to be above average. Just give me an above average, not even necessarily elite. If you give me, because what we saw last night was well below average. If you can get Derrick Henry involved, this offense is going to be dangerous. We saw Rashad Bateman make only 2 catches, but they were absolutely crucial catches. And the last one on the final drive in particular was just an amazing effort and an amazing catch that he came down with that. So he needs to get going. Mark Andrews, where in the world was Mark Andrews? One of two things makes sense to me. Either one, there's going to be a changing of the guard at tight end with Isaiah likely coming in. I don't think that makes sense. I don't see that happening. Mark Andrews is still an elite tight end. So that makes me think it's the second option, and that is he's hurt. I can only assume that the car wreck injured him more than, of course, John Harbaugh wanted to tell us, which John Harbaugh doesn't really want to give us any injury information, which, to be fair, I wouldn't want to give an opponent that information either. There's no point in giving them the advantage of knowing your tight end is hurt. So I understand that. But he was an absolute non-factor in this game. If he is healthy, I don't know why the Ravens don't line up in more 12 personnel with Isaiah Likely. I know they try to become more spread with 11 personnel and 3 receivers, 1 tight end sets, which is great. But when you have 2 elite talents like Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews that can put so much stress on a defense, and they're just mismatches all over the field, I don't know why you would not take advantage of that. But look, at the end of the day, guys, there's a lot to be happy about. This team is going to be good. I know the offense was frustrating, watching the offensive line underperform, watching Derrick Henry not get the ball, watching it be the one-man Lamar Jackson show that we've seen many, many times. But like I said, they came within 1 play of tying or maybe winning the game. So I'm going to walk away from the game with that. We knew there was going to be struggles. Now I'm just, I guess, preaching patience to Ravens Nation, including myself. Let this offensive line gel, and if they do, this team's going to be special. I just have this gut feeling, and call me crazy. Maybe I am. Probably am. But I believe that if the Ravens play the Chiefs again in the postseason, the Ravens are going to win. I just believe if they get better through the season, which I'm confident they will, they were a play away. There's something different about this team. If the offensive line gets fixed, that's what the entire season, I believe, now hinges on. Can the offensive line perform like they need to? Everything else is there. We just saw that last night. Everything else is there to compete with the best. Can they win in the trenches on offense? That's the question going forward. So that's going to do it for this video, Ravens Nation. Thank you all for tuning in for this extra long episode. If you were new to this channel and you're a Ravens fan, take a second, like I said, subscribe. It really helps grow the channel. We're going to be covering so much Ravens football, including post-game interviews. We're going to be reacting to it. We're going to be reacting to media pundits talking about the Ravens, and of course, probably, their normal talking points. But we're going to react to that, and of course, keep you up to date on everything going on Ravens football. If you're just a nerd like me and you just love Ravens football all the time, or just football in general, hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications. Like I said, we're trying to get to 2K before the end of the season, so if you can help me do that, I would genuinely appreciate it. I appreciate all of you giving me some time out of your day, and I'll see you all in the next video. Go Ravens!